tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the AfterBuzz TV presentation of NXT's Aftershow for March 9th, 2016. I am one of your hosts, the internet's Mark Donica, and holy crap, joined, of course, by True Hobo.
Hobo.
Yes, and today's, the B stands for Bill, who is noticeably absent. He's not fired, I promise, maybe. He's out on assignment for all of the presser stuff that he does.
He's getting pictures of Spider-Man.
Probably.
Yeah.
He's the new one.
They make money on this day and age.
I almost said he's the new J.K. Simmons, but he's not.
No, J.K. Simmons is still probably J.K. Simmons.
Arguably. But tonight's show is a little bit special because we finally got a decisive decision. That's an expression of who our #1 contender is for the NXT Championship, and it was a show-long 2 out of 3 falls match between Samoa Joe and Sami Zayn, and they went the distance. God,
I don't even. This wasn't even a pay-per-view.
Yeah,
this was a normal show.
We got
one match.
So one of the things, and we're gonna take our time because it was one match, and there's plenty to talk about with it and the implications of it.
Through it.
No, we're not going for speed.
No.
You have to deal with us for a full hour. So if you want to ask us anything specifically about the idea, like I want to talk about the psychology of a long form match, which we don't really get anymore.
Not on television.
Especially because the time limit has essentially been abolished.
Yes.
The only people that see the time limit are the people in the back looking at the card.
Right.
So if you have any questions, anything that you want us to talk about specifically when it comes to long form matches, or this match in particular, these competitors in particular, definitely go into the chat or utilize the hashtag NXTeam, and that's how we're going to talk to you during the show. We're going to make it as comprehensive as we can.
Right.
So the amazing thing about this was I knew this was coming from the reports of, this is how the feud is going to end. Even reporting on it a little bit on the show. Again, sorry for getting ahead of ourselves, but that was months ago.
No,
I think it was January.
What?
I think Kathy was here. That's how long ago it was.
That was a while.
Hey, and take your shot there. We name dropped. Let me pick that up. So knowing this was coming, and then seeing on the main roster they had the 2 out of 3 falls match for the United States Championship, I was like, this is a match that we don't see very often, and all of a sudden we're getting it twice within a month. Is there an over? Did you see that match?
I saw parts of it. I know how it went.
Oh no, yeah, because you did the after show for the pay-per-view. Excuse me, I totally forgot. So the fact that you can have 2 of the same type of match and they have 2 completely different ideologies, psychologies, lengths, and just ideas behind them is something that is kind of unexpected in this day and age.
Well, it used to be, granted quite some time ago, the absolute standard in professional wrestling. It would be 2 out of 3 falls. All matches were this way until sort of the modern era arrived, and so did the era of television. So everything sort of was simplified for that reason.
And isn't that also when we started getting the time limit?
No. There were time limits established before that.
Okay.
So it's seeing a match that's 2 out of 3 falls isn't necessarily uncommon. It used to be that this was how things were done, and there is a completely plausible explanation for how you make a 2 out of 3 falls match interesting and different. Even more interesting than your standard 1 fall match.
Yeah,
I'd say that there's more you can add to a two out of three falls match than you can to a single fall match to draw your audience in.
And the fact that we sort of had the hope that this was going to be the entire show, but didn't believe that it was going to be, because there have been so many tightly packed shows that are amazing. The fact that they decided to take the time out and go, no, this is going to be an entire show, is something that we haven't seen in NXT for maybe early 2014. Like, even that, the 2 out of 3 falls match between Zayn and Cesaro was like half of the show.
Right, that wasn't the entire length of the show. What we saw today was really a complete throwback to what professional wrestling was and can be when time is dedicated to it. I believe time is the most precious commodity in professional wrestling. Probably the most precious commodity in all of life. Really.
Yeah, I like it.
But you really live in the professional wrestling ring when you have the time.
I agree.
So tonight we were able to see a real story that was crafted with care, because they were able to dedicate proper amounts of time to it. Nothing was rushed. Everything had its own place, and it had its own completely beautiful build and arc, and you truly had no idea when the first fall was going to come, when the second fall was going to come, or when the third fall was going to come. You had no idea, because the match simply kept progressing without either individual gaining a pinfall until well into this match.
Yeah, like, just looking at my notes for each fall, like, the first fall was so specifically timed. They took their time to build up the pace. And, like, even the strikes were seemingly stronger just because they had the energy. But then when we get to the bottom part of the match, when they were just slugging at each other, those were weightier. You know, those were a lot heavier from an emotional standpoint and from a storytelling perspective, where it's like they have every bit of their strength, especially Sammy, who sort of lost his feet several times during the match. Every single strike was, this has got to do it. Crap. Well, this has got to do it. As opposed to Joe using them. Joe seemingly spaced them out to where it's like, okay, I'll make sure it's just hard enough so that I can get into this thing. Joe was more calculated, whereas Sammy, as per usual, was fighting for his life. Right. Seemingly.
It's one of those things of when you're a bigger guy, when you're a guy who's, pushing weight like he's pushing weight, you actually have to calculate how you use your energy, because the majority of your energy is actually going to get into just moving. It costs so much for your body to just simply move that something as inconsequential, seemingly, as a strike carries such great weight, because the more you throw, the more you get tired. It's like boxing. I've seen countless guys punch themselves out simply trying to outwork their opponent, and they're bigger guys. You lose that energy and you don't have as much to go on, and this was a long match. By the end of this match, he could only throw maybe a couple of strikes, and they had to be good. He had to calculate them so that they were good, and he did not waste it, because he didn't have the energy to waste.
No, they were, and they hit 100% on the button. Something that's also important in matches like these is the crowd reaction. And from the top of the show, when Regal came out, which we didn't even adhere to because it seemed like years ago, Regal came out and made the match between Baron Corbin and Austin Aries official for TakeOver at the request of Austin Aries. Baron Corbin wasn't going to receive any disciplinary actions.
Lucky him.
Yeah, so we had that, and Graves even was like, oh, we're also going to determine a number one contender tonight. And then that just, like, they were just waiting in the wings. American Alpha and the Vaudevillains were just waiting in the wings like, okay, here we go. We're going to... Wow, they're still going, huh? I can imagine them at either side of Gorilla, just like watching them, like poking their heads. They're like, "You guys done yet?"
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, all right, let's just go. So in talking about matches like this and the quote unquote abolishment or the forgottenment of the time limit, how important have time limits been in the history of wrestling? Because we haven't, in, I would say, the like 80s on, the time limit hasn't really become a factor unless the match is about the time limit.
Right.
So like the Iron Man match, like
Right.
time became a factor just last year with the women's title match between Bayley and Sasha Banks, the 30-minute Iron Man match. But since before then, like it was never like, oh, they went 20 minutes to a draw, which
it hasn't been important in a long time, which actually is more difficult. It's actually been a great storytelling tool, and I think that it should be brought back and actually used more often, because it usually helps create an air of two men who are unable to beat each other, much like this feud has overall. Now, these two guys were able to find new ways for neither of them to lose without the time limit being a particular part of it. And kudos to them, because that's really damn hard. It's really hard to get that creative and go, well, if I just do this and while this is happening, neither of us lose. When it used to just be, oh, we're going to kick the crap out of each other, lose to the time limit so neither of us looks particularly weak. Which is great. That used to be the absolute standard. Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair.
hour-long draws.
Hour-long draws. And the crowds would go ape.
Yes.
Ape.
One of my favorite stories, go back to Boom Nation because Ric Flair tells a little bit better. But it was him and Steamboat doing a regular hour. They had been touring the hour-long draw for months. And one night, randomly, Flair was like, hey, when we got about 10 seconds left, pay attention and follow my lead. And Steam was like, okay, whatever. And with 5 seconds left, because they had timers back then, he had the ref clue him in when they had a few seconds left, whips him into the corner, rolls him up, gets a clean 1, 2, 3 with 1 second left. And I think nobody really had the opportunity to do something like that in the modern era. But if they start with how much of a throwback we're starting to get with the company as a whole, do you think it would be wise to reintroduce the time limit?
Yes. I think the actual absence of rules makes it difficult to tell real stories. Because the more rules you have, the more rules there are to break. So now you have a heel who can act like a heel, and you can have a babyface who acts like a babyface.
Like for instance, with Kevin Owens likes to escape out of the ring, then he can eat up time even more, especially if it's a no count-out match, but it still has a 20-minute time limit. He'd let that happen.
Right.
He'd flip and run away, and then and it would just be a chase, and then come back and then like think that he's scot-free, end up losing with a minute to spare.
And imagine if he was able to attack his opponent on the outside and get back into the ring just before the time limit expired. Not even a full 10 count for his opponent, but just before that time limit expired. What a horrible human being he is for winning in that way. Just like punches. Punches now are fair game, used to be frowned upon, but now they're completely open. And I sort of miss the days where you could get disqualified for throwing a punch because a punch meant more. It meant you had to sneak this thing in. It was like, bringing a crowbar to the ring.
Yeah, it's like when Rick would do his inside tight punches, that was huge, but now he just kind of does it and everybody goes, oh, what a jerk.
Right. But I mean, it
doesn't mean anything. And nobody knows the rules about the closed fist punch. That's not straight up a rule that's established, but everybody still adheres to it.
Actually, not anymore.
No?
WWE's gotten away with it. Well, you look at Big Show. Once Big Show started establishing
the KO punch?
KO punch was gone. Shortly thereafter, completely gone. And now it's gone permanently.
I think that's the one thing that they do need to get back is an establishment of rules and just a standard, really, because them using play-by-play or playback, instant replay for 2 matches where they had like a TV setup next to the ring. It's like, why for this match? Just because you needed instant replay for this match? No, because then if you have those establishments, you have to get that much more creative.
Right.
and I agree with you on the time limit front. It's something that would add just a little bit more when the announcer would go with a 20-minute time limit. Then you go, oh, they only got 20 minutes. What are they going to do in 20 minutes? Even though that's a long time in wrestling. A 20-minute match is unheard of.
For television, it's ridiculously
And I
long.
think that's another thing now is because TV matches are 5 to 10 minutes, and sometimes we get the gift of a 15-minute match.
Yeah.
Coming out with every match saying that it's a 20-minute time limit, when you're like, oh, well, these two guys are going to go 2 minutes. Like, that sort of takes away from the majesty of the time limit. So it's probably like a utility thing.
Right.
Why they took it
Well,
away.
then you can start establishing that title matches have time limits.
Yeah.
Something as just as easy as the belt carries the weight of a time limit. You don't apply it to everything, you apply it to certain things.
I would say for title matches, bring back the time limit, because then, especially going back to Owens, that would bring an extra thing that he can play with as a champion.
Right.
That would be fun.
It's just, it opens so many doors, and I know a lot of people complain about it, but I don't think they see the bigger picture. They really don't. It creates good and bad, and it's not all about the moves. It's about the ability of two people to outperform each other. And a pin. Pins are incredibly important, and it's no more apparent than in a 2 out of 3 falls match, where by the end of the match, Samoa Joe either chose not to or couldn't even go for a pin on Zayn. Zayn dropped, and Joe took to the corner while the ref counted to 10, because he did not have the energy to get down on the ground and then get back up onto his feet.
It seemed like a smart move where he didn't want to waste the energy in case he would need it again. So instead, I'm already up 1, so as long as I just beat him into the ground, I can save any of my extra energy to do that extra bit.
Right.
Like, if he saved that extra energy to reposition himself for that final Coquina clutch and lock the arm in with his leg.
Right.
If he was just like running on fumes, he wouldn't think of that.
No.
So he was the smarter wrestler in the match.
Yes. He had really everything going for him in this match. It was completely uphill for Sami Zayn, as it is the majority of the time.
Yeah.
Especially when you're fighting a guy like Samoa Joe, who holds close to 100 pounds on you. You automatically are set at a deficit. Mm-hmm. You have really a whole lot to handle in a guy like Samoa Joe, who strikes and moves so quickly and is basically like a big rock. It's just difficult. I don't envy.
And you
him.
can see it in the near the end of the match, or is this still in the second? Yeah, it was before the second fall, the test of strength in reversing the vertical suplexes.
Yeah.
Where it looked like Sammy had to do everything, like he had to do everything in his power to barely get Joe over his head. Yeah. And there's a lot of that where we haven't seen that a lot from Sammy, I guess, because he's been injured. We haven't seen him and Joe, at least on NXT, really like fight it out like this. There hasn't been an opportunity where Sammy shows his strength, because he can usually, with the what was it, the Exploder.
Yes.
And I used air quotes for our audio listeners. The Exploder suplex at the end of the match was like, that's the farthest thing from an explosion, that because he had to really calculate and make sure he didn't pop his shoulder out trying to get Joe as over his head as he did.
It's the last act of a desperate man.
Yeah.
He was really thinking, my God, if I get this, if I'm able to hit this suplex and then the haluva kick, it's really over. So he really threw everything he had into that final suplex in the hopes that he would win. He just didn't quite grasp that Joe had enough in the tank to duck the kick, hanging himself on the rope and getting caught in the coquina clutch. He did not foresee that coming. Neither did any of us, really.
No. Unfortunately, I did know the results of this match, because sometimes when it comes to friends of the show, I want to see where they're featured, if this happens, if that happens. And especially after the Austin Aries news broke, I was like, well, what's the rest of the show look like for him? And even knowing everything, watching this match makes you forget, like, oh, Sammy could still do it. Like,
right.
Because why not?
I mean, where it goes is pretty much determined, but the journey is always different. The journey is always interesting. I don't watch wrestling for the results. I watch it for the contest of two wills, two people opposed against each other, and to see how that force interacts with itself, creating such collisions as the one that we saw tonight. That's what I live for. Yeah. It's not the win or the loss, it's the collision.
And we have a couple folks in chat talking about it's matches like this that make us wish NXT was longer. Was an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, or an hour and a half straight, but then like more commercial breaks, so it kind of gets padded out into 2 hours. I'm just looking at it from a programming standpoint, where it's a solid whatever. But do you think? I mean, and we've been talking about it since we started on this show, because we didn't start the show, that NXT could be longer, but the time constraint, as we're talking about with matches in general, the time constraint makes you work harder to fill it.
Right.
What do you think now at this point? Should NXT be a longer show?
No. By no means no.
Yeah.
Because it creates conversations like, oh, this should be longer. Because the quality is such that you want more of it. Mm-hmm. If there was greater quantity, the quality would begin to decrease. And we would have now the situation that we have on Raw, where we have a whole lot of quantity and, like, not a whole lot of quality.
Also here's an option, with the tours that are going to be going around and the rumor that NXT is going to start doing more traveling TV, would you be interested in seeing a tour show and a home show?
Sure. I don't see why not. We sort of have already, although we've seen the shows live, that weren't takeovers or tape. We've seen those. We've also seen NXT TV. I don't see what the necessarily the difference would be.
Well, here's what I would say. So we've got Roadblock coming up, the network special coming up on Saturday if you're listening to us live. And at the same time, there's going to be a live show, a house show elsewhere with different talent. It's going to be Kevin Owens, or if I'm getting this correct, I'm pretty sure I saw this correctly. Kevin Owens and AJ Styles headlining that show, non-televised. So I'm proposing the idea of, since we have so much talent, having the tour show be headlined by the women's championship matches, having the home shows being headlined by the NXT championship matches or tag team or whatever, and they would switch off,
well,
etc., etc.
Yes, absolutely. You should have a TV roster and a non-TV trying to get on the TV roster, because the roster is ridiculous in size and depth. I believe that you really do need a way to showcase the other people who are not on television, because really the pool of talent that's on television is relatively shallow, because you've got an hour of TV.
Sure.
You can't fit everybody onto TV, but you have so many people. And that's what they're doing with these live shows and these house shows, is they're taking people and allowing them to wrestle in front of a crowd that's not on TV to get them ready for TV. That's vastly important. There's no other way to better yourself in front of a crowd than to wrestle in front of a crowd. So it's absolutely necessary, and I wouldn't mind seeing the people who aren't on TV, but it's hard to, in my mind, justify them traveling. Like, I think they need to be where they are, unless they're on the cusp, so to speak. Unless they start traveling with those individuals who are on television and starting to work their way up.
Sure. Okay. I can see that. I can understand that.
It's really a tier system. You need bottom tier, middle tier, top tier, and it's...
Tier is spelled T-E-A-R.
Yes.
Crying. So needless to say, the Samoa Joe Sami Zayn match, we'll talk about it a little bit, then we'll talk a little bit more about news and gossip later. Some fun stories. Some folks returning, some folks having injury scares. First fall was seemingly all Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
Sammy was fighting up from the bottom from the beginning, but Joe had a plan. Working on the head, that just really extended headlock City front side face lock. A lot of Joe like, nah, I got it. Oh, he had those gross meaty chops that were not for sound. They were pain chops.
I mean, what this match, the turn of this match, I mean, it was sort of neck and neck to the start, but it really took a turn when Samoa Joe started throwing kicks, and they just caught Sami Zayn right in the chest, and I think it caused his neck to get caught on the ropes.
The face wash that he did near the top of the match was just, no thank you. As Graves said, I think his beard landed in the third row.
Yes.
And there was also the scary
belly to
belly
overhead. Yeah. I think Zayn was going for a Thez, trying to go for a Thez, and Joe wouldn't go down. He backs up to go at it again, and Joe last minute snatches him up, and it's real low.
Super close.
Yeah.
Super close. And as we know from this being pre-recorded, nothing bad happened. So both of the guys are okay. Right. Well, I mean, Sammy's okay. Joe's clearly fine. A lot of big clotheslines from Zayn.
He gets his power sort of out of nowhere. He'll find that burst, that fire within him that allows him to do really incredible things. Like take Samoa Joe running off of his feet with nothing but a clothesline. Mm-hmm. That's... Man, I can't tell you how difficult that is. It takes your entire body. I still have a bruise on my arm. It's still there. It's been 2 weeks.
Has it gotten any smaller?
Yes.
Okay, good.
It's just here now.
Okay.
I thought
instead of across your entire bicep.
Right. If you might be able to see it on last week's episodes. I was wearing short sleeves.
Yeah. I think you can.
I thought I tore my bicep giving somebody a clothesline. Because if somebody's coming at you with the right speed and it torques your arm back, that's your bicep.
Pop.
You can tear it really easily. It's one of the most easily torn parts of your body.
Ugh.
Luckily, it was just, I guess, a little strained, and I guess I had a hematoma in my armpit because of the way it came down, but it's still black and blue in the elbow.
No, yeah, I noticed while we were watching that it's gotten better.
It's just that easy to hurt yourself trying to take down a guy who's bigger than you with a clothesline. It's just that easy.
No, never mind. I was we don't have time to talk about that. We'll talk about Championship Wrestling from Hollywood at the end of the show. There was the Yakuza kick from Joe to the sitting senton is always just mean and disgusting. Sammy going for the Koji clutch, reversing into another tight power slam. When Joe started, Joe came off the ropes and ran at Sammy, and Sammy just like, no, and just totally backpedaled, which he didn't fall on his ass or nothing, and sent Joe to the outside with that. And we saw something that is a thing of beauty that we don't see Sammy do every time because it's very dangerous, his Asai moonsault to the outside. And when he tried to hit the Blue Thunder Bomb on Joe, and Joe just rolled over and went, nope, and just totally landed on him for two. Joe sends him inside out, and the STO to the Muscle Buster gets Joe the first fall. But while we were watching the match, it was, I don't know how many false finishes there have been.
I
losing track.
I lost it just after Sami Zayn actually started gaining some traction. That's where I lost my writing. But I see it all pretty well in my head, at least the important parts. It was very smart of Samoa Joe to sort of build his offense around his size, in that he knew Zayn would have to take to the top in order to take Joe off of his feet. And every time he did or tried to do that, Joe was on him trying to give him a muscle buster because he knew that was going to be his key to winning. He got him the first fall, and he tried so very hard to make it more than a single fall from that particular move.
He went right for it again.
Smart.
He went right for it again for the second fall,
right,
which was really smart.
It's what he was working to this entire match. Those headlocks, the kicks, everything creates that torque on the neck. When you get hit in the chest, it's granted it causes damage to your chest, but when it pushes you back, what happens? Your neck snaps.
Oof.
You get whiplash. Everything works on the neck. Samoa Joe is that smart. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Including the stuff to the outside where he was sending him into the stairs.
Head first.
Yep. The second fall was a lot of Joe changing into strikes. He had done the submission work at the top to start to weaken it. He knew, and as you said, he utilizing attacking the neck with the muscle buster. He went, all I got to do is loosen him up just a little bit to knock him off of his feet a little bit, and I'll get it. But it was a little bit of that overconfidence that was his weakness. Star Wars. And Sammy ends up getting the Koji clutch for the second fall. The third fall started out with just, let's just punch each other, like old-timey style boxing, gentleman's boxing. And
when you've got nothing left, you still have your hands.
Yeah, at the very least.
At the very least.
Sorry to the listeners or viewers that do not have hands. That was not meant to insult you.
I mean, as a fighter.
Yeah.
Our listeners are generally not fighters.
And also, if our listeners don't have any hands, then they're not participating in chat, so we don't know that they're around anyway. That was bad.
Good job.
Thank you. I do what I can to make one offensive joke a show. The one thing that I found interesting about the entire match is that Sammy never got Joe with the haluva kick.
No. He
Joe
dodged it.
Joe reversed
really well.
it twice. And there was this sequence where Joe caught the haluva kick, picked him up with the other leg, powerbombed him for 2, flipped him over
waited for him to kick out. He didn't flip him.
No.
That was on Zayn. Zayn kicked out and into the crab.
Joe used the kick out momentum to flip him over for a modified crab, and then jumped on his head to get him with the crossface and hooked the arm, so that we thought that was it.
The stretch. He really didn't look like he had much, but Zayn is long. His frame is very long, so when you have his arms, he still has legs with which to reach, and he definitely did reach that bottom rope and was able to get Joe off of him, or have the official do so.
And the thing that made it even more compelling, like if as wrestling fans are watching this going, this is a great match, and then all it took was one thing by Joe to make it that much more compelling and that much more interesting. That's when we got, think about your career. You're like, okay, this guy needs to lose immediately, screw this guy. But at the same time, you're like, yeah, he should. I mean, he just came back from shoulder surgery.
Right.
He should tap.
This is life and death that we're talking about.
Quite
and
literally.
Dealing with in this match. This is a man's livelihood. At any time, his shoulder could tear. His other shoulder could tear.
Yeah, and he'll be out for another 9 months.
Right, and that's
Or longer.
That's money out of his pocket. That's money that his family doesn't get to eat.
And from seeing Breaking Ground, that could be it. If he's super injury prone, or I mean, Joe would probably get fined for doing something on purpose, but
I mean, during the
but you know what I
course
mean.
of, right.
But you know what I mean. It's
Sure.
it's more of a thing of, oh well, if he got his other shoulder, then he's got 2 reconstructed shoulders, and we're waiting on him to come back, etc., etc.
It's return on investment. They make an initial investment on an athlete, put them, give them, whatever their bottom benefits are, and that's considered at least the minimum investment from the company. From there, it's about what that superstar can make for the company. That's the return on investment. And if that person spends the majority of their time laid up, not able to perform, they're not actually returning on the investment from the company, and the company has to cut ties. It's hard, but it's business.
And you got to think how much money Zayn's making on shirt sales when he's just got the one. They got rid of the first one in Zayn, which was just like, okay, I'm happy that's gone.
He needs a shirt.
Yeah. Sammy broke that hold with his leg, even though both of his arms were kind of out of. It's almost like no, not going to make that reference. Joe just nailing him with kicks and punches. A lot of his striking combinations were hitting seemingly even harder today. Sammy ended up crumbling into the ropes and onto the floor.
Almost falling out of the ring at times.
Not looking good. Oh, there was also the time where Sammy got chopped off of the top rope and fell to the outside. Yeah. That was before the second
Joe
fall.
wasn't even expecting that.
No,
he thought, if I just hit him hard enough, I can incapacitate him and go for another muscle buster. Chop! Oh, damn it, I lost him.
It was a strategy by Zayn. He's like, well, he can't get me out here. I can
Can't muscle bust me from the floor, can you, buddy?
Which he thought, but all that came out was because his brain was just gone.
That's right.
Just nothing coming out, brain to mouth, not functioning. Man. But Sammy ends up popping up and spinning Joe around and getting him in a Kakina clutch. Joe breaks the submission. whip to corner. Sammy hits his exploder suplex. Wow, just a big, like, I gotta throw this man over my head. Good luck, me. And he did it. It was an interesting camera angle because they had the landing like just out of frame until the very last moment, so you couldn't see Sammy's head.
I'm sure the cameraman was going, "You're not actually going to try to." Oh God!
Oh, my job or my credit, depending on if it's a student or not. Sammy misses the haluva kick. Joe gets the Kikina clutch, switches the grip on his hold, locks his leg so that Sammy has less leverage to make the tap.
He switched the grip and trapped the leg because Zayn could still reach up and grab the arm to release the pressure. But once that arm,
knock him in the head.
Once that arm is gone, he's got nothing with which to take down the pressure, and he has to find a way to get out. Period. And he's got. And there was nothing. He was out. He didn't tap. He
got knocked out. Knocked out cold.
Yeah.
What a match. What a show. A hell of a performance by these two athletes. And I could see this again. You know,
oh my God,
it was kind of like you almost wanted another non-finish. So then you go, what are they going to do next time? If we got a 2 out of 3 falls match, what can they do at like I quit match? Like that's even then the both of them will just knock them or last man standing to where it's not in anybody's power and they just have to you're done. Somebody else can make a call.
This is probably one of the most compelling builds and feuds we've had in quite some time in this company.
In the whole company, not just NXT.
No, in the entire WWE has seen, because of the way this was able to construct meaningful wins and losses and non-wins and non-losses so that both men looked equal. This gave this definitive victory by Samoa Joe actual credible weight. He is the #1 contender, and that is practically a title. This entire match from top to bottom was a title match without a belt.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
This was as important as you can get.
It also, even more so, gave more credibility to the NXT Championship, which we haven't seen defended since London against Joe.
Right.
So having these two fight in such a way that makes that title mean that much more, and I'm surprised we didn't get anything from Finn like coming out and like slow clap or talking even quieter to Rich Brennan backstage. I'm very excited about the result of this match, and I can't wait to fight the winner, Samoa Joe. Like, I'm surprised we didn't get that because he's been getting quieter every week. Thank you again. Damn, I forgot who it was. Crap, who sent the cheese from Foster's Home from Imaginary Friends in the Finn Balor makeup.
Yes.
I'll retweet that again because I flippin' love that, and Finn liked it, which is just like that's fun. So yeah, this is something that proves that long form matches do have a place, and I would say if they did put a time, it would be hard to put a time limit on this because it's weird. Anytime they get rid of the time limit, they would go longer. But anytime they had a time limit...
It's the addition of a stipulation removes the time limit. So 2 out of 3 falls would come in, that would remove the time limit.
Yeah, with no time limit.
Right, 2 out of 3 falls with no time limit. That's how you would do that.
That's
ladder match, no time limit.
Yeah.
Anything else, any sort of stipulation you add, takes away the time limit.
Sure.
Because that's just scratch, that's bottom line.
Does Championship Wrestling from Hollywood use time limits?
We do not have time limits, though we do enforce an over-the-top rope. You cannot throw somebody over the top rope.
Okay, so like clotheslines, you can't just straight up throw over.
Yeah, you can't toss a guy out.
Okay,
that's still
because somebody in chat actually wanted to bring that rule back. So if
after dealing with that one the way I have, it becomes one of those this is hard to enforce type of rules.
Yeah.
Mostly because you get guys jumping out. So if a guy dives over the top, does that disqualify himself or his opponent? And what if you do clothesline a guy over the top rope? Does that
That's
necessarily...
just momentum.
Right. So it becomes...
But then it's like, if if you mean to do it. If you're like, I'm gonna throw you over the top rope, and you purposefully throw somebody over the top, as opposed to like premeditated throwing over the rope.
Right.
I think.
And also, does it take effect when the guy hits the floor? The man being tossed out, does it take effect once he hits the floor, or does it actually take effect the moment he is tossed over? The moment the majority of his body is over that top rope, even if he catches himself, is that still a disqualification?
Yeah.
It's difficult to enforce. That's all I'm saying.
Really quickly, I would like to send my apologies to Alex Reyes for mentioning Rich Brennan instead of him, because he was the last person to interview Finn Balor on television. My apologies. Not intended, sir.
Sorry, Alex.
I'm still hashtag Baez. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, whatever. Good, whatever. Like, either way, both of them do a good interview with Finn, and Finn still gets quieter and
You're
quieter.
still credible.
Yeah,
both of you. Dye your hair.
No.
Alex.
Brennan should dye his hair blue.
Blue.
Millhouse joke.
Oh yeah, clearly.
Yeah. And then Alex will be the serious one. Hell of a show. We've got at least one match for next week, which is the number one contendership for the tag titles. Maybe they'll do the full show. They probably won't. But from there, with how much time I got left, let's go into some news and gossip. See, I was buying time so that they can get to the sound effect.
Yes.
You're welcome, Steven. So we got a couple of big pieces of news. Very happy news. Well, actually, let's start with the bad news, and let's go to the, or quote unquote bad news, and go to the good. We had a couple of injury scares over the weekend. Asuka knocked Emma out, like stiff kick to the head, to like the point of the chin.
The jaw. We watched it.
Yeah. There's an Instagram video that shows Emma just going down.
Oh, man.
The ref stopped the match, got looked at. Emma was in action the next day, going like, got checked out, everything's good. No worries.
It's one of those buttons. It doesn't cause a concussion. It just causes your entire body to give out.
It's like, what? Nope. Yeah.
Just push the button.
You found the reset button.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, Tommaso Ciampa had a little bit of an injury scare. Also came back the next morning saying, "Oh no, I'm good."
Yeah.
But I think we got the X up in that match, so people were a little.
It's a rough weekend.
Feared. Yeah.
Rough weekend.
For the Arnold Classic. Other than that, successful shows. Congratulations to them on that whole event being the gateway to traveling, and how much we've come since last year.
Right.
Also, there's no, that's a rumor. I'm gonna get out of there. Some people are talking about the new Bulletproof idea for Finn Balor being the name of the stable when the rest of the Machine, when Doc Gallows and Machine, whatever.
Whatever.
Brain farting.
Pretty much to that whole.
It's a rumor.
Set of rumors.
It's a rumor. So it's whatever.
We're journalists.
Rhino, I suppose former NXT superstar, just because he kind of just stopped showing up.
Former WWE champion.
Yeah, former champion in the WWE, not WWE champion.
Okay.
Announced last week that he is filed to run as a state representative for his district in Dearborn, Michigan. He talked to Alex Marvez of Fox Sports about his campaign, and talked about when he talked to Vince about it. The quote is, "I told Vince, I hope I make you proud." He said, "You already have." He then followed up by saying if there was anything WWE can do to help, let them know. He didn't ask what party I was running for or this and that. The McMahons love for their country is just contagious. Which is cool. But Rhino also said he doesn't think his past in pro wrestling will hurt his career in politics. I don't think
he doesn't really have a checkered past compared to other.
But being
wrestlers.
involved in ECW, which does have a couple of court cases, legal cases against it, like the Minor and New Jack.
New Jack himself.
Yeah, but that's more New Jack than anything else. But Rhino's quote for that was
9 justifiable homicides. I think it's 9.
Let's not talk about This is not the New Jack podcast. Rhino says, "I do not think it will hurt me at all. I think candidates that run against me will try to make fun of it to discredit me so they can win the election, which is understandable. But I want to go out and discuss how we can make this state better and how we can make people's lives easier and educate the kids.
That's right. They're going to take cheap shots. All he has to do is out-wrestle them verbally with the issues.
And hopefully they'll try to toss him over the top rope so that they will be disqualified from running.
You can't just discount a guy and throw him out like that.
He also, I would recommend going on Rhino's Twitter, which is Rhino313, to see his awesome, his campaign look, which is a beautiful mustard yellow jacket, seemingly UCLA colors, with a checkered, yellow and blue checkered shirt and a blue bow tie. Rhino, the man beast, cleans up nice.
He does.
And hopefully he will run through the state legislature with a gore. And finally, actually, no, not finally, but Ty Dillinger returned to action this past weekend, which was great. He had a badly strained knee, was the final consensus about his injury in January.
But it wasn't a tear. Tears are really rough.
He returned to action against Apollo Crews this past weekend, and so happy that there wasn't just another person out for an extended period of time, especially for the rise that Ty Dillinger seems to have been on.
Right, he's really trying to gain that momentum, and Lord knows an injury at this stage is only going to delay that further.
Yeah, and seemingly if there's going to be so much... I just mistyped something in the chat. If there's been so many people that have been moving up from NXT to the main roster, there's going to be more spots for the folks that for the NXT homegrown talent, like Ty Dillinger, who is one of the last of a dying breed, excuse the phrase. Love you, Bull. But yeah, we need more folks to go up against the indie darlings in order to prove themselves, and Ty Dillinger has always been one of our favorites here, and has always been all of the wrestlers in the back's favorites too.
Yep.
So happy that he's already back in action. Also, if you missed this past Monday on Raw, Sami Zayn made his return to the main roster, and according to himself on Twitter, he is there to stay. It's not a temporary thing. It seems like this will be his last sort of run up to TakeOver, and we're going to hear about his match officially on TV soon. We already discussed it on the show, but we're not going to discuss it again until they address it on the show. So if you want that quote-unquote spoiled for you, go ahead and take a look, especially now that we know the number one contendership situation.
Right.
So yeah, this looks like it will be his last run. But what do you think, Sami and Owens on the main roster, maybe WrestleMania?
Oh, is WrestleMania too soon?
I mean, they're not giving them Roadblock.
I say the Monday after WrestleMania is a great time to start that feud, and you can keep that going for quite some time, 6 months, a year.
I think the problem is there's no definitive motion with the Intercontinental Championship.
Right.
As of now, it looks like it'll be some sort of a multi-man match.
Oh, yeah.
And Sami could be the underdog from the underground that comes up, wins the title, and leaves with a WrestleMania moment this year. But we still got a couple of weeks until WrestleMania. Saturday, we do have WWE Roadblock, and since there is an NXT match on the card, we're going to finish up with news and go into short predictions.
Your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
I love it. We have the Tag Team Championships on the line Saturday. That is the Revival versus Enzo and Cass. Who do you pick for this match?
Revival. They gotta take it. I think it's gonna be really close. It's gonna come down to it, but I think the Revival.
Is that coming with the rumors that Enzo and Cass, even from Cage Side Seats, from Mr. Bill Handstock, that Enzo and Cass are going to debut on the main roster?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they can't both hold it, and they can move up at the same time. That never happens. It has not happened yet, and I don't think they're going to be first.
It's only happened once with Paige.
But even then,
arguably,
she had to drop it. I'm gonna drop that because I'm still hot about it.
It's an old issue, but NXT has evolved as a brand, and I think the fans would love to see a title versus title match at WrestleMania. Because that has an inherent build in it where you're going, oh, well, here are the two best tag teams in the company. What story do you need? And New Day on the main roster is going from team to team to team to team. They're going up against we have two tag team title matches on Saturday. They're going up against League of Nations, Barrett and Sheamus on Saturday for the titles, which is strange and sort of establishing New Day as a face.
Yeah,
team.
They have been. Oh, when was that?
Like they're not. It was with Edge and Christian at Fastlane. Like that.
Yes.
That was that. But then the League of Nations stuff sort of stopped. It was
They don't know what they're doing. It's fine. My problem with a main roster versus NXT is what are the chances that the NXT champions are actually going to win a tag team match over the main roster champions?
I think that's where you make that surprise, like, because then you're testing. You're not just testing the title. You're testing the idea of NXT champions, like being the better team, like being the better champion, and that I think that only makes NXT look better. And
it makes NXT look fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
How is that a problem?
It's a problem because they don't want it to seem like it's on the same level as the main roster. NXT is to be perceived, at least until something very big happens, like it's the minor league. And they want it that way. They are not going to let main roster guys lose to NXT talent. They are just not going to let it happen unless it's on NXT's own turf.
I don't know, because we had with the rivalry between Kevin Owens and John Cena was an indicator of, oh, well, this guy's from NXT, but he just beat the face of the company. And we all know how that ended, of course, but Owens is still riding that really high. Not only as a fun heelish move to be, I beat John Cena, but also that momentum has stayed with him because he hasn't let that, by coming out in such a big way, he's been able to stay at that level, at the United States Intercontinental title level, and has still been a prize fighter. And if you do that similarly directly with the NXT championships, tag team championships, and the main roster championships, and then you just have Enzo and Cass stay, and then we get another tag team tournament, which seems to be tri-yearly, it down in NXT, then that could be that final graduation thing of, oh, well, now let's watch the tag teams in NXT. They're just as good as they are in WWE.
While I can't disagree with the points that you made, I believe that Kevin Owens is a special case. That is, his situation and what his journey was does not apply to all people, and especially not to NXT talent.
Sure.
I still think the main roster is number 1, and NXT is like number 3.
So regardless, we are going to have an amazing match between the Revival and Enzo and Cass.
Absolutely.
I picked the Revival too, even though I hope this Saturday is when we see the spot that we've been talking about for a year.
Sure.
I think it would be very fun, very entertaining, and I think everybody would love it. So, let us know what you think is going to happen at Roadblock. We are going to be doing an after show for it Sunday night with the pay-per-view team. Maybe we can be involved somehow. I know I'm going to be working the 1s and 2s that night.
Well, I'm actually filming television.
Are you? Tell the folks about it.
On Sunday, I am making my return at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. I've got some business to attend to. I wouldn't return so soon, seeing as I'm enjoying my extended stay, and I've been at so many other companies.
Yeah, you're at Ring of Honor.
Enjoying myself, Ring of Honor, Evolve, Australia, Florida, Nevada. I've been in a lot of places, but I feel like this is about as good a time as any to come back and really deal with a particular issue. I'm not going to say what at this present time, but feel free to ask me about it on Twitter at TrueHobo. ProWrestlingTees.com/Hobo is where you can buy a shirt, but I suggest you go to NXTeam.com shop.spreadshirt.com to buy those shirts. Those are real quality. We make those ourselves, and they're hot quality items.
Yes, and thank you to everybody who has picked up all of that merchandise. It helps us out. We're going to WrestleMania this year. NXT.spreadshirt.com. If you want to follow all of the goings-on with the wrestling side of the company, follow me at Mark B. Donica on Twitter. Follow Bill Handstock at Sundown Motel. Follow all of us here at AfterBuzz TV. Make sure to check us out on iTunes. Give us a rating. Leave us a comment. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye!
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.